to the audience on the side. I hope everyone now has a better understanding of how to navigate and personally learn about this exciting new space. So the next panel is totally different from what we've been chatting about all day. It's not Bitcoin, it's not B-side, but let's zoom out and look at the industry as a whole. Because one of the most important aspects of our industry are exchanges, and they're basically the gateway to Web3. And there must be some viewpoints that is different from the average investor, because they're basically at the forefront of examining industry trends. So today we have invited multiple top-tier exchanges that operate in Taiwan to share their thoughts on the future of our ecosystem. Please welcome Alex Liu, CEO at Maicoin, Henry Liu, CEO at BTSE, Lennix Lai, Global Chief Commercial Officer at OKX, Adam Cai, CEO at Virgo Group, moderated by Sam Reynolds, Senior Reporter at CoinDesk.
All right, so we're all awake still. No one's sleeping right now. No one's hungover. Well, look, we've got right now 2 weeks left in the year, more or less. And Bitcoin is at 42K, Ether at 2.2K. We can talk a lot about why that's great and why number goes up. Because last year at this conference, Bitcoin was at what, 16, 17K? Thank you, SBF. But there's a real more to it, right? There's more of a story than just the numbers. So Alex, start with you. Like, you see a lot of retail as well as institutional data from your exchange. Now, what is the story here, right? Bitcoin's up, that's great, but behind the scenes, what's happening?
So if you go back to the Bitcoin white paper or when the code was published 15 years ago, or when the first block was mined, a few months after that, Bitcoin is the same. It's still the 30,000 lines of code that it was 2 years ago. Change the world. So instead of using Bitcoin as a number, they look at it with another thing, which is the dollar going down. And that's not necessarily because of the 2008 financial crisis reasons. I think this is a much broader thing that's going on. So in the last 2 years, it's been accelerated by wars, unfortunately. The financial sanctions that were imposed in the aftermath of the Ukraine war, both there's a lot of friction into transactions themselves, but also shape the fate in the US dollar. So I think it's more about the world becoming crazier and Bitcoin looking a little saner in comparison. I think that's what's really cool.
What do you think, Henry? Are we in the mad world right now?
The problem.
I think, I would say on a macro level, yes, but I think there's a lot of good catalysts for people in our industry or people who are adopting the tools and the assets that we have to provide. So overall, I think as mad as it is, it's a good thing. We have a lot of events happening this year that would change for our industry as well. Like you have Bitcoin halving, which everyone is looking forward to, ETH Cancun, a number of different things coming out, a lot of upgrades to a lot of protocols that make it just easier to use. And also in the wake of other large institutions who may not have made it out of the last cycle coming through now, there's a lot of a cleaner environment for us to work with, less enforcement, but more regulation, and that's good.
Lennix, what do you see?
Yeah, I see thanks to SBF, right? So a lot of previously the market is relatively openly leveraged, and after the big white line, I think the current level in terms of leverage is relatively healthy, and we got a lot more narratives to as a positive catalyst, right? First of all, ETM, inscriptions on Bitcoin ecosystem, legacy ecosystem become halving, and also better interest rate, better probably next year. There's a lot of good narratives, and also the market is relatively healthy in terms of leverage risk.
Okay, so Adam, as far as these narratives go, like what is your favorite narrative right now? Like what do you think will drive us into next year?
I think it's from a big picture perspective. So Bitcoin's adoption rate has always been going up. So in a time when I created a company, 2017, called Bank of Canada, where I come from Canada, only 5% of people hold Bitcoin. And now in Canada, it's already 13%. So definitely demand is definitely boosting up. And if we kind of clear off, all these bad players, ensure that there's no major blow up. So the continuous of adoption rate would, naturally increase Bitcoin price, the more people holding it. And also globally speaking, from the sex perspective, more regulation is coming for sure. No matter looking at Canada, Australia, United States, all the rest of the world, even Hong Kong, Taiwan, I think that does give us a lot of a principle to play the game and ensure that we protect users' assets and ensure that nobody gets a major blow up. I think this is very important. I think all these safety level will boost the confidence level for the high net worth individuals, institutions, and also a lot more players coming in to increase adoption rate to 20% or even higher.
For sure. So Alex, you mentioned like macro factors that impact Bitcoin and crypto as a whole. And probably like the biggest macro issue for our industry is regulation. Now, about a month ago, the CEO of Binance, or ex-CEO of Binance, CZ, he pled guilty to a number of US charges. And, unlike SBF, the charges he pled guilty to involved the US government dictating who you can and can't work with around the world. And, fast forwards to the, December, how has that changed your outlook? Because the US still is the world's dominant institution and country and market, right? And stablecoins are largely dollar-based. Yet we're here in Taiwan and we're not in the US, yet we still have to think about US rules. So how has this like post-CZ market impacted your business?
Well, we've always, in the past 10 years of operation, tried to anticipate where regulations go. And as Wayne rightfully would say, C2 there, perhaps a bit more forehand. With respect to the actual events of November, whether it's SBF's his conviction rather, or CZ's, I guess the real question for all of us, not just the exchanges, is do we prefer to live in a world ruled by law or by man? Right? And I think the example here is Satoshi himself. Theoretically, he's a Japanese fellow, but we've never seen him. And after the code was published, we've never heard from him. To my knowledge, the UTXOs have not moved, right? So I think that's a really high bar to set, just to speak with your actions and the impact that you've made on the world instead of you yourself as a person. I think in the last 10 years, but in the past 5 years in particular, I think there's been too many personalities. And we're humans, we all have personalities, but I think that as we move forward, I would prefer to see less personas doing the talking, I suppose, and more, all of us, the market, and their rules that regulate our interactions. So, in summary, I think it's positive.
So less crypto Twitter, more markets working.
I mean, yeah, exactly. So less of that, like I said, personality-driven stuff. I mean, look, so the owner of Twitter, now X, I suppose, I think he's a pretty good example. His rockets and his cars work pretty well, and I think that speaks well to his last 20 years. His last 1 year of owning Twitter, maybe less so. So I think that drives home my point.
What do you think, Henry?
I think a number of the points Alex made are actually very valid. The number of hero stories we've seen, and to the credit of many of the builders and founders, they deservingly so have these hero stories and this kind of mob of users that follow them and follow what they say. But I think the industry is shifting. I think there are a number of different products and use cases being built that require that. I think we let the technology, the science speak for itself, let the users have better products that we can provide for them, get the ability to, whether it's investing or whether it's just changing the way they live, the way they play, by using currencies, by using technologies built. So I would definitely agree with what Alex said.
For sure. So Lennix, you guys are definitely compliant with rules here in Asia, right? And there are some excellent rule sets in Singapore and Hong Kong, Japan, and so on and so forth. So what's the view like here from Asia, right? Like, are people here sick of having to abide by U.S. rules and want to, have their own localized rules, or do they know that they have to play around with the world rules?
The U.S. rule is obviously makes differential. I mean, not the rule, but at least the stance and the direction has great impact to not just our business model, but also the direction of the other regulators as well. The only difference is the APEC-related regulators normally have a clear-cut rules, a clear-cut do's and don'ts. So despite the fact that I believe this CoinDesk article talking about basically the APEC hub is normally crypto friendly, but not necessarily crypto easy. The rules are difficult, but the good thing about it is it's clean. It's clean cut.
There are rules though.
Yeah, there are rules. Yeah, there are rules, and we expect that. The problem in the US right now is there is still a lot of debate, polemic going on within the regulations, and also the definition of crypto assets. Still a lot of debate going on, and that is the problem.
Okay, Adam, your thoughts?
I think on the US side, they have been pretty much confused in the past couple of years how to regulate centralized exchanges. They never come up with a rule for that. And I think they definitely take the approach of taking a lot of enforcement actions, which is not that good. Obviously, as the industry players, we want to have clear rules, clear guidance. We're a bit lucky from Canada perspective because we're actually taking one step further. We're already regulating under the Security Commission's regime, so we're actually already a dealer. So that's what SEC haven't even figured out their mind yet. So I think after all these exchange drama, all that, I think next thing to look for SEC, obviously the Bitcoin ETF thing is coming up. There are some big debate right now about whether to ban USDT in US, which is crazy to my mind. Even though Canada has already banned USDT, which is also crazy. And also the second thing is also SEC stands to a lot of tokens. They're randomly coming up saying, okay, this token security, that token security, and that put us in sometimes a lot of trouble because do we have to delist it or not? So that kind of stuff.
Well, I guess then the problem is that it is completely random, right? That they're applying a court case, the Howey test from 1940 something, to digital assets which were first developed in 2009, right? So if you look at Asia, what is, I think, your favorite rule set here? Is it Hong Kong's rules? Is it Singapore's rules? Japan's rules? Pick out something around the region that you really like. Don't say things are bad, but think of one example of what is a good thing they're doing here. Whoever wants this.
Well, since we're in Taiwan, and my company primarily operates here, let me say this about Taiwan. This was my thesis 10 years ago when I returned here to do this business, which is over time, this piece of land would become a Goldilocks territory for crypto. If you think about Earth's position in our solar system, right? If we were a little too close to the sun, we'd burn up like Venus, right? If we're too far, we'd be a little too cold, maybe like Neptune. But Earth, the reason it's habitable rather, is it's not too far and not too close, and I think that's what we should strive for in crypto. My argument for Taiwan, in favor of Taiwan, is that we're not a no man's land or a lawless place, right? I mean, if you look at the financial industry here, if anything, you can fault it for being too conservative. At the same time, let me take your point about Hong Kong and Singapore as a comparison. These are, very established international financial centers, and you would think that first blush that's a great advantage when it comes to crypto. But I would argue as time goes on, it's actually the reverse. The example I like to use is Singapore, which has attracted many projects in the last 5 or 6 years. But one of their largest banks, actually their largest bank, operates their own crypto exchange. Right? I'm talking about DBS's operation. And if you just look at the flip side of that, that's correspondingly less space for startups such as ourselves to operate in. I would argue as time goes on, Hong Kong will probably also favor financial industry incumbents in ways visible as well as invisible. Taiwan, on the other hand, if you look at the industrial structure here, sure, there's something like the TSMC, which is like a quarter of the market cap here, but by and large, this place is made up of small to medium-sized enterprises in every single industry. And I think that actually is what we should strive for, not through necessarily deliberate design, but more through an invisible hand approach. And I think where we are right now in Taiwan with regulations, as of this year, the Financial Supervisory Commission is the formal regulator, so we'll going forward be regulated as a financial industry. But at the same time, there's not yet a licensing structure in place. And like I said, I think this is pretty much where we would like to be. So Taiwan is a Goldilocks economy, and I think that as time goes on in the next 3 to 5 years, you'll see this place emerge, at least in Asia, as a very attractive place to develop crypto businesses.
Yeah, I mean, there's some hometown bias there, of course, right?
I'm biased, but hey, we're all here.
But at the same time, like, the idea of centralization is not a crypto topic, right? Everyone assumes you have to be in Singapore or Hong Kong to be in crypto in Asia, but you actually don't, right? Like, Taiwan has a blockchain sector, which we've seen here this week. Korea has their thing going on. Japan, with their rich IP, has their sector. So I guess, would you see this as an industry that will still centralize around the financial areas, or can go anywhere?
I think the non-financial side of it brings a lot back to the financial side. If you are always just saying that this industry is marketing its tokens, right? Then and the assets that you can buy and invest into, then maybe we're limiting ourselves. But I think regulation starts obviously on the financial side. With respect to Singapore, Hong Kong, I think obviously yes, they're tier one. What Alex said is correct. For ourselves as a company at BTSE, we look at how we can structure ourselves so that we become flexible and actually serve the users who need a particular product in a particular region the most. Right? If you are a spot trader or just looking to convert from a fiat currency to a cryptocurrency, then we serve in places and get registered and licensed in regions that are allowing us to do that. If you're a futures trader or want something more exotic, then you may need to look for proper legal opinion, proper legal protection, and find ways to protect and serve the users that way. So for us, we are licensed globally, not just in one place. We looked at the Taiwan's examples and the leaders that have gone before us in setting up here and dealing with the government and regulators, and we intend to look at how that plays out in 2024 as well. So our business is not just one product for everyone around the world, and we must be in that zone. We look to be able to diversify and serve people around the world based on the by country law that is available.
Okay. Lennix, your thoughts?
The only thing I like is, I think in terms of regulations, I think it's probably, for example, in Hong Kong, they don't try to regulate anything in crypto. They exclusively only regulate the most difficult area, which is crypto exchange only. So that because of that focus, they can craft the rules specifically in many granular details on how to regulate crypto exchange and crypto exchange only. Anything aside from crypto exchange, you can do anything related to Web3, NFT project, Web3 market makings, tradings, anything that you can operate in Hong Kong. So I think the exclusive focus on one specific sector spread out the signal. This give the regulator easier to understand what's going on and lower risk, and also spark out the signal to the industry that hey, I'm encouraging Web3 development on that region.
I think we also are an easy target for regulators to come forward, right? To start to regulate the full stack.
Yeah.
Because as a centralized exchange, our responsibility collectively with everyone on this panel is quite huge, right? We serve as 5 different industries in the traditional financial sector. If you're an investor, you want to buy equity, you have to go to a broker dealer, then you have to go to an exchange, then a clearinghouse, a depository, look for a transfer agent, have all the other custodians licensed around it. And we kind of compile all of this into one very efficient system. So I'm not shocked that we are
we're custody too. Yeah, we're custody.
So let's move on to the markets right now. So Lennix, you mentioned that the amount of leverage right now in the markets is healthy. How did we get to that point? Because people said that the leverage amount during the bull market last year was very unhealthy, which led to massive pumps and massive, declines in token prices.
On OK Standard, I remember the last report, the average leverage that the user used around over 30x. Uh, um, right now is probably less than 10 or around 15 leverage. But for institutional, it's a lot lower. In the last report, probably around 5. For institutional, right now, it's basically flat. So two or 3 times max.
Okay, well, why is it flat then? Like, what do they not want to do here?
I think the general risk tolerance on traders or institutional, even retail users, a lot more prudent in terms of usage of leverage. And also a lot more other tools, for example, a lot of other derivatives tools, options that has helped them to add leverage. And also we can see a lot more users is using, they're not trading directly, but they're using trading bar to assist on that trading. And normally those kind of trading bars has generate lower leverage than the ordinary users.
Okay, so that's actually a good point because we talk a lot about like this AI, boom right now. And one aspect of that would be bots and trading bots. Now, how would that impact the market, do you think? How would it look like if in a year everyone had a bot on their side that was crunching data like crazy and helping them trade? You want to start, Adam?
This is probably not the best question for me to answer.
Okay, sure, no problem.
Okay. Sure. I think we can see the trend adoption of using bots, what we call assisted trading tools, is massively increasing because the bot is just one word, but actually there's a different kind of category, from fully automated to semi-automated, for kind of like a market timing assisted trading bot, and also we have a trading ChatGPT that everyone can actually generate code by purely trading idea. So we can see that people using bot in different levels. Some of them just rely 100% on trading bots. Some of them are picking their market timing. They have general view on bullish and bearish in a relatively short term period, but they would not go long or short immediately. They rather than rely on using trading bots that focus on particular segment, particular duration. So a lot of users using gridbot, for example, but before they have a bullish view first, then they click a button called bullish in terms of gridbot.
Interesting. Okay. So we've heard a lot at this conference about different trends, in the market, things like Web3 and ordinals. And as exchanges, you guys wouldn't necessarily deal directly with ordinals or, DAOs and stuff like that, but you would see the effects of that in your data. So what does that look like from your point of view? Maybe let's start with this, Adam.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting topic. So as a regulated exchanges, we have some of the limitations, right? So in terms of how fast we can support a certain tokens, a lot of times we're a little bit conservative in a sense. But like in terms of such as the latest trend for the BRC20 token, all that, like we have been very interested in trying to first of all to understand, how quickly we can support infrastructures. And secondly is, do they have enough liquidity? Obviously, with us, immense protections is very important. Otherwise, we'll be, really be followed by the security commissions. So we have to ensure that there's certain liquidity level, trading volumes, less of market manipulations, which is really difficult sometimes. So that's one thing. The second thing I think for us is, in terms of the token-wise, I think now Bitcoin is obviously one big ecosystem. Everybody, like a lot of things around that. But also Solana system recently has been also very strong. So we have been looking at, supporting a lot of Solana, tokens, which has been quite popular on the West side. And also, I'm seeing, some bounce back on the NFT side of things, such as being, recently has picking up a bit because the NFT market has been pretty dead in the past few months. We have seen a little bit kind of growth going back. But all in all, like with the regulatory changes, we're typically not the first place for people to look for that kind of things. It's typically following after such as OKX and Binance, etc.
For sure. You mentioned NFTs, and they're fairly dead, right? Now, I heard a lot last year that they were dead because Ether was in the dumps. It was priced low. But if you look at this year, Ether's up, 70% on year, whatever it is. But NFT prices haven't quite followed that trend. Any insights as to why?
I think the major thing is it's also about narratives, right? So the biggest NFT player is Yuga Labs. Everybody can agree to that. But Yuga Labs have been in the shadow to producing their metaverse games for a long time, and there hasn't been any kind of important release yet. So people have been waiting on that. And also, really for the PFP kind of narratives, it has been there for quite some time. It hasn't been a strong momentum to push up the PFP price either. Even if Blur has been done significant good into the liquidity side, they just hadn't been able to push up the price either. So I think the pricing hasn't been doing a favor, and there's no new narratives either, right? So without those elements, I think the NFT market is still going to be trying to find the next storytelling, right? But unfortunately, we're having better and better structures. You're talking about better NFT. I'm not saying Blur that's much better than OpenSea, but they're definitely more aligned with token economics. And also you're looking at actually more service providers in NFT too. So I think they're just waiting for that turning point, and that should definitely come after the crypto bullish market, because NFT from my mind is probably going to be later than how crypto is going to react to.
Sure. Henry, your thoughts?
Specific to NFTs, I think they'll come back, but in a different form and factor. I think that there is underlying utility there. I think the people moments are probably over, not coming back in that form, might come back in another. But all the other topics you guys talked about earlier, ordinals to everything that was actually around the Sora Summit today, I think as exchanges, we play a pretty critical role in helping users interact with this. Like by building up applications or tools where you can actually interact with ordinals would be very cool. I think Binance and OKX have gone ahead to do a lot of research and development on this front. And for the first time ever, we see users that were very purely decentralized and purely on DeFi, even some of the hardcore original Bitcoin community, all coming back together for the first time ever and putting a lot of differences aside and building out projects. And I think that's very cool. So as an exchange, as a platform for us to be able to support these different protocols, whether it's ERC20, ORC20, ARC20, there's many of them, right? Track is up 25% today after a PR announcement earlier by the Sora team. So all these things are all factors that are helping people come back into this ecosystem as one. But we have to obviously be very selective and picky on who we support as centralized exchanges, because we play as an important touch point and a custodian and a service point to many users.
Anything more to add to that?
Yeah, I want to actually riff off of Henry's two of his prior points. The first of which is utility around NFTs. I think the broader point that he made about the economy, the real world economy, and how we should be as an industry be less perhaps insular or mean or personality or even press release driven or fashion driven, and just cast your gaze out the window and see how we can use this stuff to actually improve industries' productivity. I mean, I know I'm coming across like an old fogey, which is not a coincidence because I'm quite sure I'm the oldest guy on this panel, but that's the way I see things. And I hope that with this cycle, we notice that Bitcoin's going up as a number, of course, but it's going up in tandem with gold. And I think that is because of broader macro trends that I started out with. Let that be a clue and say, this time around, how about we do some real things, right? I mean, Taiwan, coming back to that point, has a very diversified economy, right? We have an agricultural sector, an industrial sector, maritime shipping. Can we use this stuff? Maybe if USDT gets banned, maybe we use another one, but the concept is the same, right? Do some real stuff, basically, all right? And if we can do that, then we don't have to worry about the boom and bust that we seem to experience every 4 years, being as dramatic as they are, I think we'll just have something closer to a long-term and healthy growth trajectory.
So I want to actually go back to ordinals for a second. One of the big boom and bust cycles this year was, I think, April or May, when Binance had to pause transactions for a while for Bitcoin because ordinals had driven up the cost of transactions where it just wouldn't work anymore on the Bitcoin blockchain. So maybe Lennix, you can talk about, from your perspective, how you guys have adapted your software, your stack and the exchange to make sure that we can have ordinals and all the great stuff on there. At the same time, you can actually do transactions and make sure the network is not clogged up, because a lot of people, some people, not here perhaps, would argue that Bitcoin is being clogged up and polluted by ordinals.
Oh, this is a tough question. Yeah, given that, so Ordinal is previously when we built Ordinal, we still think it's a relatively short-term NFT narratives, but I think our dev can never imagine it play out the size at this big. Right now, I think OKX has 80% market share Ordinal trading volume. I think the debates surrounding related whether or not this Ordinal defined by the quote unquote by Bitcoin Core is the garbage message that sit it with the block to clog up the Bitcoin network and also drive up the cost of operating a Bitcoin nodes that essentially might probably undermine the security of the Bitcoin network. I think eventually, my point is, even the most exciting audience supporter, they will not. I think they will agree that the Ordinal, if the Ordinal is getting so big, or those kind of garbage measure getting so big that eventually clog up the entire Bitcoin ecosystem, nobody wants to do. Nobody will expect that. We appreciate this to happen. So my point is, I think eventually these kind of two very extreme side of opinion will come a middle ground. Some of the message limitation will be imposed in Bitcoin Ordinal. That's how
There'll be consensus, if you would.
The consensus would be a compromise between the Ordinal community versus Bitcoin Core, which is the core community, which the best execution probably imposing a limitation on those kind of garbage message.
Okay. Henry, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think if you have a network congestion, it's not necessarily the worst thing, but it just forces people to take action and kind of make the best choice for the ecosystem. I mean, heck, it's kind of like doing a pen test, right, for a product. I would lobby the rest of the exchanges. We join forces together and we try to spam the network and to see what happens and make sure that everyone's building a better product out there.
Okay, for sure. Now, just to wrap this up now, we've got 2 weeks left in the year, so next year's coming pretty fast at us. Let's do one forecast each about next year. Of course, easy things would be like Bitcoin at 80K for sure, but let's not think about numbers, but think about material changes within the broader crypto ecosystem and what you think is going to happen in the next year or 2 years. It could be narratives, it could be challenges, opportunities, all that kind of stuff. Alex, why don't you start?
Well, I'll take the opportunity of having Danny Yang, my co-founder, in the audience to say that the milestone we're shooting for next year is to list on the stock exchange here in Taiwan. And that, we started that. We started with the vision in 2013 of being essentially the Coinbase of Taiwan. And I think 10 years after, I think we're well positioned to make that happen. So IPO basically in 2024.
Very nice. Henry?
I think the same topics that happen cycle after cycle as cycles want to pick up, right? Price, everything. I believe that there aren't that many regulated environments where you could do derivatives trading, crypto derivatives trading, particular licensing. And I do look forward to that being, more well established globally in different parts of the world, whether it be in crazy places like the Middle East, Europe, right, India, or even I wouldn't say the Americas as much. They have a pretty strong hold on that. And out here in Asia, I think that last 4 or 5 years has been very much regulation, very stiff. I do see them getting more creative and more open. So it's not even a prediction, it's more of a I hope, and that we can work together with them.
So, but why is that important? Why is derivatives important for this market's health?
Because it allows more entrants, it allows people to have a better investment environment. I mean, price discovery happens because of the derivatives market, not because of the swap market, right? So these are incredibly important instruments. We see that from TradFi. So as these regulations come out, we can then make sure that we can improve. The whole point of why we're here building a centralized exchange in crypto is to improve the tools from TradFi. There's no point for us to do this if it wasn't for that reason, right? People cannot just enter DeFi directly. They must go through a centralized venue as their first point of contact, as their first tool. So for us to do this in a more regulated environment will just make it healthier and better for everyone.
Lennix, what do you think?
Yeah, I think there's around 16 to 18 jurisdictions from our perspective that's come up some form of crypto regulations. So after 1 year, or a majority of crypto trading can be defined coming from regulated space or executed regulated space. So my forecast will be easy. I think probably a big percentage of crypto volume will be contributed directly from regulated player or big names, traditional finance or bankings or regulated exchanges, for example.
Okay, then some might argue that this would be the antithesis to Bitcoin. When you have Goldman Sachs and these largest banks trading Bitcoin, well, what's the point then? Now, are they correct, or is this the evolution of Bitcoin?
Some of them are asking whether Goldman Sachs is taking market share with crypto exchange, right? Whether or not, but I think I won't see Goldman Sachs building a Web3 wallet. I won't see OKX building an investment banking arm that listing crypto tokens. So I think there's still fine line between these crypto world and versus TradFi. But I would see, for example, one matrix would be majority of open interest, probably contributed by guys like Goldman Sachs in Bitcoin ETF, for example, or Bitcoin futures, for example. I think that's expected that. But in crypto, we will still focus on frontier innovations, product, NFT, and other narratives.
Adam, what do you think?
I think something always in my mind is how do we have massive adoption similar to what open AI like ChatGPT has, right? Blockchain has always been comments like you guys never had a killer app. You guys never have been able to bring hundreds of millions of people to the industry. So I think as regulation everybody agrees to is going to be more and more. So what can we do now to become actually a true gateway to bridge that kind of level of users, right? So I think there are two areas to focus. One is definitely about payment. I think leveraging crypto for the global payment remittance, especially for the fiat exchange like us, has been very important. Leveraging crypto as a way to to do international transfer is so much better. If you're considering transferring money to Africa, some part of Asia, it's just so much faster than traditional payments. So the second thing is I think also on the crypto exchange side, we should also think about how do we bring the regulated asset management business into that. We recently acquired an asset manager fully licensed in Canada, and we're actually launching licensed product on exchange. So that the people who want to get crypto exposures doesn't necessarily how to trade, and they will get an access to this with full proper disclosures, risk management, governance. I think that could also give people the exposure they're looking for. So I think it's really about these products. I think can give people the safety level they want, but in the meantime, they don't need to worry too much about the complexity of the cryptos.
Okay, so you'll have the boomers trading crypto with their usual fund vehicles and not MetaMask. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of to that level. Yeah, just to giving them the easy access, and they don't need to worry about preserving their own private keys. So that which is a little bit against decentralization, but arguably not for most people who want to get in crypto, they don't necessarily want to have that level, right? So they just want to get exposed to it. doesn't mean they want to control the private key. But that's kind of thing we also need to help them.
Okay, great. Well, guys, that was awesome. Thanks so much.